Chief Minister, firstly congratulations on your election as Senator and indeed as Chief Minister. Is the Chief Minister's position, job, everything you thought it would be, and what's been your biggest challenges so far?
The job is fabulous, I'll say that. It's incredibly interesting and it's pretty varied. I think the variety I wasn't necessarily expecting. And there is actually a lot of travel still involved, even though the aim I had was to a lot of that to go to external relations. That's obviously still happening, but even so, there's still a demand on the Chief Minister to go and represent the island in various places. I probably hadn't appreciated quite how much that was until even over the last, whatever it is, 3 to 4 months. Biggest challenge so far, I mean, I think biggest immediate challenge is obviously the information like we had last week on the children's services side of things. In terms of practicalities, it's getting the teams together. That seems to be going quite well. The council ministers actually seem to be gelling quite well so far.
I'll come on to that actually.
Okay.
Carry on.
So, you know, from the point of view there, I think the aim is always to try and get the team to work. And that is obviously not, maybe that's not the biggest challenge. That's obviously one of the key first objectives, to make sure we've got a team that will work well together.
We'll come on to that hopefully, is as you'll be aware, I come from the position of an anti-child abuse campaigner. With that in mind, are you as committed to the implementation of the Independent Jersey Care Inquiry's recommendation as your predecessor was? Senator Ian Gorsty is very committed to the implementation of the Care Inquiry's recommendations, and hopefully he still is. Of course, that now includes the Jersey Care Commission and Ofsted recommendations. Are you committed to implementing all recommendations in these reports?
The Ofsted recommendation we've accepted in full. The Care Inquiry, I think, apart all the core recommendations, absolutely. The one caveat, there were 2 caveats on that. One is the ongoing political issue around the role of the bailiff, which was referred to in there, and the other one was the Haut de la Garenne. Now, Haut de la Garenne obviously transpired, there was a consultation that came out, and also the results of the consultation were not to demolish, to an extent we went with the consultation. So other than those 2 points, absolutely.
Because that was my next question, referring to the recommendation 7 of the Care Inquiry's report recommends, along with the Carswell and Clothier report, there should be a separation of the judiciary and the legislator. It's basically to fall in line with modern democracies, but of course the Care Inquiry had a different aspect to that. It revolved around the negative connotations of the Jersey Way. That was its part in that. So we spent tens of millions of pounds. We spent £23 million alone on the Independent Jersey Care Inquiry, and all these reports have reached the same conclusion. Isn't it now time, because if we keep repeating the failures of the past, you know, we're not going to get any further forward. So would you not support the separation of the legislator and the judiciary? Okay,
there's a quite a wide response to that one, so let's try and keep it relatively short. The main issue, I would say, that comes out the whole points we've had around the Care Inquiry, etc., is all around culture of the organisation. It's how we've let down people. That to me has got to be the major priority, because that's actually changing how we do things. The issue of the bailiff, I don't really want to get dragged into, when I say into the weeds of that argument, but the issue of the bailiff is really, it is partially a political decision. I have to say, for an Island 9x5, this is a personal view, and that's also been my stance with people who've elected me on every occasion I've stood, so I can't really shift from that view, is I don't perceive it as big a problem as some people say. Partially because, in practical terms, the bailiff sits there as the president of the assembly, as the chair of the events of how the assembly runs on a day-to-day basis. But that's not making legislation. That's not voting on it and that type of thing. So for me, it's a bit of a theoretical argument rather than a practical argument. I think the other concern is, as well, is what do you want to put back into its place? Because I would be horrified at the prospect of having the President of the Assembly, who will pull ministers up in quite a sharp fashion if necessary, which I think is a good thing, and at the moment he, could be a she at some point, you never know, has always done it in a pretty even-handed fashion in my experience in that whole process. I want to see that still happening. As far as I'm concerned, the legal training that the bailiffs get, it does demonstrate an independent state of mind. And I'd be worried if it became, for want of a better expression, a political appointment, which does in itself then drag the Assembly further into kind of political games and manoeuvring and all that type of thing. And that's why I'm worried. So it's a little bit about cultural identity. It's one of the, it's a thing that makes us different. In practical terms, now I fully accept there will be some individuals who vehemently disagree with me, no question. But in practical terms, from my experience of it, I've always taken the view that it's a theoretical argument rather than an actual argument, if that makes sense, or an actual problem. But whatever happens, in my view, because it's constitutional change, I've always supported the principle that it should be a referendum. In fact, any changes to the Constitution should be a straight yes-no referendum, and then let's see what the outcome is. If the outcome was to get rid of the bailiff, then I'd support that, because at least then there's been a proper vote on it. In my view, sorry to finish off, and I know that's a difference to what the Referendum Commission have said, if you're going to do any of those type of referenda, I guess, that should be around election time, because at least then you'll get a decent turnout. It's no good going to all the hassle of all that and getting a 10% turnout or 20% turnout or whatever it is, because that doesn't give the credence these kind of important questions deserve.
So again, we could go on this for ages.
Yes.
I know we're strapped for time.
So we're probably going to disagree, I think.
Yeah, I think we were. Yeah, no,
but to reiterate, don't forget the key issues around culture, in terms of organisational change, of the mindset, and making sure we look after children and vulnerable people. No question, we accept these recommendations, and that is what we're working on.
We'll see if we can come back another time and discuss the bailiff stuff with you. Okay, again, it's on the same sort of level. We can't deal with the problems of today without acknowledging the failings of the past, and putting them right. The Napier report, the Independent Care Inquiry report, the Royal Court, among others, have all recognised the former police chief, Graham Power, was unfairly suspended from duty. All these reports, independent reports, have come to that conclusion. It was all evidenced. As Chief Minister, Senator Ian Gorst, in an answer to an oral question from Deputy Russell Labby, intimated he and or the Council of Ministers might apologise to the former police chief. Will you right this wrong and issue an apology on behalf of the Council of Ministers?
Now, that's a question I hadn't even thought through. So what I will say is, whenever I get the moment, I will look at it and make a decision. I'm not going to give you a decision yes, no today.
Okay. And last one on this particular subject is the Wiltshire report, or the prosecution case against the former police chief, Graham Power, is published on the State of Jersey website. Now, do you believe, in the eyes of natural justice, the former police chief's interim defence case should also be alongside the prosecution case against him on the state's website? And if so, would you right this wrong and publish it? I mean, it's not fair, is it? For anybody, in the eyes of justice, somebody's got a prosecution case against them in the public domain on a States of Jersey website. I mean, surely natural justice suggests the defence case should be there as well, which is a public redacted document now. Again,
I'm not going to go yes, no on that one. Let me go away and have a look at it, and then we'll give you a response.
Sorry. Well, the Chief Minister, we're not doing too good so far, are we?
But I think it's a case of, I know some of them are, when I say quite historic, we're going back. So I'm trying to think when the Wiltshire report was, but we're going
2010, I think, Wiltshire.
Yeah. So something that, as 8 years old or 6 years old or whatever it is, obviously 2010 is 8 years old, I'd want to go back. I'm always going to be cautious before I commit to something. I want to know what I'm committing to. I need to look at it, and then I'll come back to you.
Well, I think you need to look at the former police chief's interim defence case, not the Wiltshire report, because that's actually online.
I meant the circumstances around the question.
Yeah.